Welcome to Sit Downs with City Lifestyle, Vegas Edition podcast. We are here with another episode of our Meet the Partners series. So I am very excited to welcome my long-lost Greek cousin over here, Mr. Alex Mavros with 702 Property and Life Realty, and longtime friend Jason Hill with Modern Lending. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Great to be here.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah, we are so excited. So we love a great story, and you guys have been friends for what seems like forever. So we got to hear the origins of how you guys started working together in your respective fields.
So I started UNLV in 94.
Okay.
For some of those of you listening, that was a really, really, really long time ago. You may not even have been alive yet. But I started at UNLV, and I paid for my own schooling. So I was on the long-term plan. I've got a project due tomorrow. I'm just going to audit the class or drop the class. So I was on the extended plan. You know, Jason got started at UNLV in August of 98. So through the fraternity, Sigma Alpha Epsilon, that's how we originally met. But he was also an alumni of Valley High School, which was a lot of our fraternity at that time. So as all these guys are coming through, guys that came through Valley, and Jason will share some of his stuff, but amazing athlete, which is why we wanted to have him in the fraternity, because he was
your ringer.
Basketball superstar.
Yeah.
So, but that was when we first met, was in 98, and just an awesome guy. Mm-hmm. My little bit of my history, once I finally graduated from UNLV with my BS.
You say finally. What does finally sound like? What was your total time?
Well, let's just say I should have been a doctor. But I did get my BS in marketing. I
love it.
And I will attribute it to my mom getting her degree. She already had her associates, and she had gone back to UNLV to get her BS, her Bachelor of Science. And she's like, well, it looks like I'm on pace to graduate in spring of 02. I was like, wait, that's when I'm supposed to graduate.
Oh, no.
I am not going to be a story when President Harder is up on stage and says, we have a son and his mom that are graduating together. She came back after 25 years to get her degree, and it only took him 8. So that last year, I kicked butt. I actually did better that last year than I did any other year, because I finally got into my marketing that I really enjoy doing. And I finished in December of 01.
Yep.
So I got out in 01.
Yep.
Mom graduated in 02. We didn't have to worry about any of those awkward stories. So that was fun. But yes, it took me a little while. But the marketing and everything that I learned, that's kind of the direction that I went into. But as are so many people, don't necessarily go into the job of their degree.
Yeah.
There were many things that I did over the years. Sales and marketing. I worked with Enterprise Rent-A-Car. I worked with Sahara Coins and Precious Metals. Did marketing, did sales, insurance, mortgages, kind of the whole gambit. And then in 2016, I got into real estate. And the reason it took me so long was there's so many agents. Well, today there is still so many agents. But what I realized in getting deeper and deeper into the industry, so many of those agents don't know what they're doing. They don't know how to communicate. They don't know how to work well with others. They don't know how to just create that process, and they don't have amazing partners.
Yep.
So that's something that we'll kind of talk about today. But I'm in my 10th year now.
Yeah. Congratulations.
It's going well. Thank you.
Yeah.
It's going amazingly well. I love it. I love the people that I meet. If it weren't for this industry, we wouldn't have met.
Yeah.
So it's just great. It's a lot of fun. And yes, there are a lot of complications, and probably more so on Jay's side, because he has to deal with the nuts and the bolts and putting those deals together. But that's why we've always worked so well together. We get along. The communication is great, and we just really feed off each other.
I love that. Well, let's hear from the ringer. So obviously the basketball star of SAE back in the day.
You'd be surprised how important that was back then. Like the fraternity intramural scene at that time was like insane. We would have hundreds of people come watch us play flag football. It was cool. So about myself, I was born and raised here in Las Vegas. I went to Valley High School. I was a year behind Alex actually being there, because he was 94. I started in 95. And my first year after high school, I went to UNLV, kind of followed in the footsteps of a lot of the other people before me at Valley that joined Sigma Alpha Epsilon. And it was like a feeder school for the fraternity. And had an amazing time. I spent a year at UNLV, and then I got an opportunity to go away for a couple years and play basketball in Wyoming.
That's awesome.
So I was at a junior college in Wyoming, but had made such great friendships with the fraternity that was still like a large part of my life, even though I was states and states away. Came back to UNLV in 2001 and became a part of the basketball team at UNLV, which was a cool experience.
Oh, yeah.
I got to travel around the country with those guys and practice every day with them. Awesome. I was like a student manager walk-on. They paid for school. They paid for like a stipend to live off of. It was like really, really cool experience. And then one of our other fraternity brothers actually was my mentor into the mortgage business.
Oh, wow.
And so I started getting into the mortgage business, like not being licensed in about 2002. And it was right after September 11th, 2001. Wow. And so we had a huge economic crisis at that point based on those attacks. And so interest rates came way down during that time.
Yeah.
And that was kind of an entry point for me into the mortgage industry. Honestly, to begin with, it was a lot to do with financial gain because I saw people in that industry doing extremely well. And, it's crazy. You blink and it's been 23 years.
It's
22
nuts.
years. And in the last like 8 or 10 months, I've opened my own mini correspondent branch here in Vegas. So kind of operate under my own flag. It gives me a ton of control. And working with Alex has been an amazing experience. Again, everybody gravitates towards Big Al.
That's so true.
Yeah,
it's so true.
He, when I met him in the fraternity, even after the fraternity, like you can't really go too far in Vegas. Like I bet you couldn't throw a rock without finding somebody that knows him.
I say that all the time too. Everybody knows this guy.
He's like the Kevin Bacon in my, like the 6 Degrees.
Yes.
Like everybody knows Big Al.
It's so funny.
And so it was a natural progression of us working together, and we do work well off of each other. We're both pretty laid back. We're not high pressure people. And I think that we both take an like consulting advisory role versus a sales role.
Yep.
I know, again, when I got into the industry, it was a great way to make money.
Yeah.
But once I was able to not make the job about making money, it became so much easier.
Oh, yeah.
When you're stressed out about how you're making, your car payment or where that rent payment's going to come this month, your clients can feel that.
Oh, for sure.
And again, fortunately, I got to a point in the last 10 years where like I can just wake up and talk to the people that need my help and give them good quality advice. And if it turns into something great, if not, some of my best referral partners are people I never did a loan for just because they knew I had my priorities set straight and it was about them, not us.
Yeah.
And like in the real estate industry, I feel like a lot of people that get like drawn into real estate, there's a potential for a lot of money. And it's like all based on your personality. So there's a lot of like A-type personalities in the industry. And I think in some cases the consumer feels like maybe they're not the most important person. That real estate agent being that super type A personality can sometimes dominate the like situation. And
for sure.
Me and Big Al are both like kind of on the opposite spectrum of that. We're not here to make it about us. We're here to make it about the people we're working with. So again, it's like a really great partnership in that aspect.
I love it. And I think you guys bring a really unique perspective to both of your roles because of being born here and having grown up here. I mean, do a lot of people lean into that just level of knowledge and experience that you guys bring from having seen the city grow so much?
I think that it's funny, but like most people, when they hear you're born and raised in Vegas, are like, "Oh, I didn't know there was anybody born and raised in Vegas."
I hear that.
I feel like it'll become more and more common just as like the next generation of people, because I think people are putting more roots down in Vegas than they had in the past. I definitely think it is helpful for us to have like a working knowledge of what's going on, but also like with the other side of that is the valley has grown so quickly. There are probably places in the valley that I have not been to.
Yeah.
And I'm not in the car like Alex is, he sells the dream. I kind of tell you how much the dream costs.
I love it. Well, it is funny you say that because I feel the same way. I've been here for 20 years. And even in that time, I mean, I tell people, I'm like, St. Rose used to be a 4-lane road and you used to go 70 miles per hour and there was nothing on the south side of St. Rose. And now it's like the hospital's there. There's so much stuff over there. It's just booming like crazy.
West Henderson. Whoever thought that would be.
West Henderson.
Yeah, right?
That's exactly right. West Henderson. It's a whole thing now. So, well, I mean, as people are going about, starting that process of looking for a home, what do you guys recommend? Who do they start with? Do they start with you as a realtor? Or do they start with you as a lender? How does that work?
So I would say the first thing that usually happens is the conversation with the realtor starts. They're like, can you send us some properties? We just want to kind of see what's out there. But unfortunately, that's kind of putting the cart before the horse because the real important conversation that does have to happen with Jason, because we need to know
how much,
what they're making, what their debts are, what they can afford to do. Is the job that they have going to continue for years moving forward? Are they retired? Are they no longer getting that income that they used to? So there's so many of these other conversations that need to be had first. So as Jason was saying, I'm selling the dream, so I'm trying to get them excited, but at the same time, I need to get them diverted to be able to have that conversation. The great thing with Jason, again, with communication being so important, I know I can get a hold of him. He responds back. I can get him on that conversation. The client that we're working with right now, literally connected them, sent out a text message, because I always want to make sure that I'm not doing a three-way call to Jason. I'm not trying to make it awkward, like, okay, it's your turn, talk, Jay. I want to create that open the gatekeeper feeling to where I'm opening it up and then allowing Jason to jump in and say, hey, very nice to meet you. Love to get on a call with you just to explore what the possibilities are. Because again, I don't say somebody's qualified for $500,000 and I'm sending them homes that are up to $600,000, then all of a sudden, of course, you're gonna get more with a $600,000 than you are with a $5. So all of a sudden, I open their eyes and they see stars, and then all of a sudden, they're like, never mind, let's rewind that. So that's the conversation we need to have. But again, we will a lot of times talk to somebody 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, or even years before they're ready to go, because he's really great at putting them on a roadmap of what they need to do. Don't pay off a collection. Don't do some of these things that you think you're doing good and trying to heal your scenario. You're actually setting yourself back. So there's some things that Jay can share with you that we don't want to do. But the opportunity is for us to create the opportunities and then get together and just make it happen. And as Jay was saying, we're not going into it with desperation breath, but we're like, we need to do something right now. I always tell them, I want you to be happy. I don't want buyer's remorse. Luckily, I don't think I've had any clients that have bought the house and been like, wow, Alex got me into this, but now I don't know what I'm going to do. Like, I'm not happy about the house, or I'm not happy about the payment. Like, we want to make sure that even if it pushes the limit a little bit and goes a little bit further than we had anticipated, we want to make sure everybody's comfortable. And they're happy with the decision that they made.
That it feels like they're home. And so, Jason, from your side of it, what are some of those tips that you would give people as they're starting this process, as they're going down? Like Alex mentioned, like, maybe don't make those big purchases. Like, what are some of the common errors or tips that you would give people as they're starting this process with you?
I think it's just best to have a professional diagnose the situation before you start doing things that you think are going to help that may not have the impact that you want. In a lot of cases, people want to pay down debt, which is a great thing to do before you're going into a home purchase. It's going to help amplify your credit score, and it's going to lower your liabilities. But how you pay off your debt can be there's a science to it, and the way that these algorithms are calculated by the credit bureaus, a lot of it is not as common sense as you would hope for it to be. And so in a lot of cases, I'm hoping to just get in front of it and provide the right steps to take so you get the biggest bang for your buck.
So in a typical scenario, then, what is that timeline looking like for you? If somebody were to say, hey, I'm considering buying a home, maybe not even until next year, the following, what would be an ideal timeline for them to reach out to you?
It really depends on the situation. That can kind of run the whole gambit. For some people, I will talk to people and they're like, I don't even think I can make this happen. I'm not sure how this works. And then 30 days they're in a house and it happens very quickly. And then there are people that think they are bulletproof financially and they couldn't finance the smoke off of a hamburger. And so you run across confidence is key, right? In all things in life. And there's some people that have 450 credit scores that are super confident. And so again, just providing them the right expectation, because I will talk to some people and I'll know they're going to be 6 to 8 months out. And that's if they listen. And so that's another thing. I'll be as motivated as they are. Because in some cases you'll talk to people, you can, lead a horse to water, but you cannot make them drink. And it, again, kind of runs all over the place, where I would hope to be able to talk to somebody 45 to 60 days out, and you can usually make quite a bit of ground in that time. But in a lot of cases, it's also financial situations. So people that are self-employed that may not want to pay the tax liability associated with the income that would be needed for the house that they want to purchase. So during this time of year, I become very busy just reviewing people's tax returns and letting them know if it's going to allow them to accomplish the financial goals they have for mortgages and buying real estate in the future. Because when you file a tax return, now you're kind of stuck with that
number.
Return. And again, I've had situations where people were wanting and willing to pay a higher tax liability than they needed to just so they could get into the house that they wanted to get into.
Yeah.
So we ended up running into there's credit. Like the 4 things that every lender's looking for is employment income. That's the most important. The bank just wants to know they're getting their monthly payment. Yep. Number 2, what kind of liabilities that they have, and that's going to be the debts that report to the credit bureaus. Number 3, those credit scores, where those credit scores are going to define what loan program makes the most sense, what interest rate you're going to get, what kind of mortgage insurance terms you'll be getting if you're not putting 20% down, and lastly, assets. And so the asset portion of it is also pretty important because in a lot of cases I'm talking to somebody and they've saved $1,000 and they're ready to buy a house. But in a lot of cases you do need to save some more money before it really pencils out and makes sense.
So you're talking to people about some of the most intimate details of their entire life.
Yeah,
do you run into situations where people are like, oh yeah, like XYZ, and then when you actually get into it, it's like, ooh, maybe not a lot?
You know what? Some people are pretty closed off, but it's amazing. After doing this for so long, I don't even realize that I'm disarming people with the way that a conversation begins. I'll meet somebody with me and my wife at a party, and within 20 minutes, I know everything about them.
That's
and my
so
wife's
funny.
like, "How did you do that? The guy's literally giving you his interest rate on his house and how much his car payment is and
his credit score."
And I'm not qualifying for a house, but that's just not unfortunately, but it's just naturally. I'm just learning a lot about somebody very quickly.
Yeah.
Just because that's the key to being able to give them the correct advice.
For sure.
The worst thing in the world is not asking that question that ends up being the time bomb in the background. And so it's really important for me to cover the bases, and I subconsciously do it in just regular situations. So
I love that. Well, I think both of you guys just have that sense to your personalities where people do feel relaxed around you. I think I knew both of you for 5 minutes, and I felt like I'd known you for 20 years. Because of the relationship that you guys have together and the relaxed nature of your guys' conversations, but then also it's just, there's a disarming nature to your personalities that I think helps too. So, Alex, I want to know from your side, are there any trends that you're seeing with people that are in the housing market to either buy or sell now? I mean, there's been so much information that's been going out. What are you seeing here in the Las Vegas market?
So the biggest thing is, as we always talk about, and anytime anybody ever asks a question of when should I buy? Well, 5 years was the best time.
Yeah.
The second best time is right now.
Yep.
I have numerous clients that I've spoken to over the years, and they're like, I'm just waiting for the crash to happen. Well, there has to be a catalyst for a crash to happen. What happened in 08 and some of the different mortgages and scandalousness that was going on in the industry. But Vegas is such an anomaly. We're so different than other places. There's inventory that's shooting up in Texas and Florida and so many different places in the country. But here it's very different. We've got the Golden Knights, we've got the A's coming, we've got the Warner Brothers studios coming, we've got the Hyperloop, we've got the Brightline from California. There's so many different things that are happening in Vegas that I don't necessarily see that happening, even if it were to happen in other places. So something to kind of touch on that is one of those elephant in the room are the hedge funds or the portfolios that are buying homes. Makes it very, very challenging for first-time home buyers to get in because a lot of these investors are coming in and they're buying up all of these homes that are in that $250,000 to $450,000 price range, and that's very, very challenging. And for sellers of mine, they want the family to be able to get the home. They don't necessarily want the investor to get it. But when you get this investor offer that's a full cash offer that's closing in 10 days, they're not asking for any repairs, it's a very hard choice for them to make to say, I'm willing to wait it out for 30 days. I'm willing to have to maybe do some repairs when this godsend is sitting there from this investor. Now, I don't necessarily see anything changing on that front. We do have a lot of conversations when we talk about this and others in the industry that there should be some implementation from legislation that would give the opportunity for a first-time home buyer to have more choices, more options, because they're very few. So I will say in that market, it's been challenging. I've had first-time home buyers. We've been looking and we've been trying to do this and trying to go look, and you've got 500 square foot condo that's $175,000 when it should be $100.
Yeah.
So and you add an HOA of $300 or $400 on top of that. So there's a lot of challenges, but as long as you have, again, I will always go back to communication. The communication that I have with my clients, the communication that I have with the agents on the other side. if they answer their phone, when we want to show a property, or when we want to make that offer. The good thing and the amazing thing that anytime Jason and I always do a deal together, I know that I don't have to worry. And that's a huge piece of the puzzle. When you know that we need to do our job on the front end, we got to make sure with insurance, which has been crazy, insurance companies pulling out of California and Nevada and rates going up, and homeowners. I had one client last year, we closed on her home, and 30 days later, American Family Insurance flew a drone over her home and said she needed a new roof, or they were going to drop her insurance. So these things are happening left and right. Homes that are 20 years or older, they're saying we're not even insuring those homes. So there's so many different things that happen that we need to take care of in the front end. So in our due diligence period, that's when we get our inspection done and we ask for our repairs. We make sure that the home can be insured. But knowing that I don't have to worry about the back end, about the loan being done, is huge. We had a 30-day escrow set. This is a deal we closed a couple months ago. It was a 30-day escrow. Jay was ready after, I think, like 2.5 weeks. And I think we closed the deal 23 days in. So knowing that you don't have to worry about the back end, get the front end taken care of, get the clients to understand the process, there's no surprises, that's huge.
That's why he's the ringer. The ringer, still to this day. Well, and with all the conversations that are going on about the rates right now, what would your advice be to somebody who's looking? Like, there seems to be a perception that rates are higher, but rates are actually normal. They were just significantly lower for quite some time. What do you think about that?
So it depends on how long you want to go back. If you go back into like the 80s, like obviously interest rates were like 14, 16% in the 80s. And then there was a long period of time where we're subject to those super high interest rates. And then since I've been in the industry, interest rates have been anywhere from 2.5% to 8%. And I think that typically over the last 20 years, 5.5% is about the median interest rate. So we have trended above that for quite a while, and the increase that we saw from the lows that we experienced in 20 and 21 have been pretty extreme. Affordability has definitely been on everybody's mind, because interest rates went from the beginning of 2022 when they were 3% to by the end of that year in the 7s. In 23, we saw them get it into the 8s. Right now, we just are experiencing a ton of volatility with all this tariff information that's been going on, causing a lot of chaos in the financial markets. So the best advice is, if you can afford to buy a home, it's one of those things that there really isn't a 5 to 7 year period, except maybe 2006 to 2009, where you wouldn't have been ecstatic that you bought. There's so many advantages to it. You don't have somebody telling you what you can and can't do to the house depending on your HOA. You are paying down a mortgage versus paying off somebody else's mortgage. So that's like a forced savings account. At some point in the future, by you paying down that mortgage, you're going to realize those funds back when you sell. Appreciation is the number one thing that you experience by owning a home. Typically, we're getting 3 to 5% appreciation rates historically over a very long period of time. But if you look at the last 5 to 7 years, it's been way above that. So again, owning is always going to be better than renting. Most people's biggest financial asset is their home. Is the equity in their house. And one of the things that Alex touched on, I thought is important. We've done a really good job of insulating ourselves from what's going on in other places in the country, just based on the hype of what is occurring here in Vegas. If you go back 5, 7, 10 years, the majority of the people purchasing homes in our market were service industry workers. And now, again, there's not as many of those service industry workers that are purchasing, just because the economy here is diversified. There's a lot lot more business, a lot more white
different
collar.
Types of business.
Yeah, you have software companies moving to Vegas. You have, at some point, maybe these Hollywood companies. You're dealing with a completely different economy than you were 7 to 10 years ago. And where you see a ton of inventory growing in other states, we've done a pretty good job with these elevated interest rates of not seeing the inventory in our market explode. And I think that that's a testament to the strength that our real estate market has compared to, I felt if you went back 10 or 15 years, if something happened somewhere else in the country, it was amplified here. The Great Recession was amplified here because other places were struggling. Those people didn't have that discretionary income to come to Vegas and have a good time. And now we're not so dependent on it. And so I think that is another thing that kind of strengthens up what we're doing here in Vegas.
I totally agree.
One other thing that I wanted to add is over the last couple of years where, interest rates have been up, I would say I've been able to get closing costs for my clients probably 90% of the time. And some of the other times it was just the seller didn't realize the difference between the net, whether they gave us closing costs or they lower their price. So that's something that's very, very important, because a lot of the homes on the market right now, you're starting to see homes that have been sitting. Now, I had one that I sold last month. We went on the market on Friday at 5:30. And we had an offer on Monday, $560 cash. So stuff is still going off the market if it's desirable, if it's marketed correctly, if it's priced correctly. So that does happen. So, you'll hear a lot of people, whether they're listening to the mainstream media or the news, the stuff that they read, and they'll say, prices are going down. Well, no, you have to price something accurately up front. If you have to have price reductions, that doesn't necessarily mean that the prices have come down. It means you may not have priced it accurately. With that being said, a lot of these concessions and some of the different programs that we do with Jason are a 2-1 buy down. So where rates may be 7, the first year they're paying 5 and this next year they're paying 6, and then in that interim they may need to refinance out of that loan. But there's a lot of different things that we can do, or getting the closing cost that helps defer the amount that they need to come in with. So there are a lot of other options, and because a lot of people do feel that they need to bring so much to the table, that we're like, no, we could actually get you in at 3.5% or 5% conventional. So there are a lot of opportunities. It's just a matter of having that conversation and not putting that conversation off for so long because you don't understand all the nuts and bolts of the situation. That's what we're here for.
Well, and that's the underlying factor from everything you guys have said, the need to have an expert who can help hold your hand, for lack of any other way of putting it, through this whole process. One of the things, because we've talked about this a lot, I love my house for a long time, but the house doesn't really serve my life anymore. Like it's not in the exact location I'd like. It's not the layout that I would like necessarily anymore. I've been there for 7 years, but I was joking with Alex saying, I'm going to die in this house because the price was low, the rate was low, yada, yada, yada. And he was like, why? And I remember saying, I'm like, well, I don't know if I'll find something. And he's like, you date the rate, you marry the house. He's like, the one thing you can't change about your house is its location. He's like, if you don't like the location of your house, you're not going to be married to the rate for forever. And I always think about that because I feel like a lot of people can relate to that sentiment, especially for those of us that bought our homes, 2015, 16, 17. It's like, well, now we're just going to die here, whether we like it or not. And it's like, that's not necessarily the case. You just need somebody who can help you navigate that process, because a lot of us have a lot of equity in these homes and we don't have to be stuck there forever, as you would tell me on a repeated basis for the last several months, as I complain, particularly going into the summer with no pool. So, but I mean, if you guys had your best piece of advice that you wish people would know, what would it be that you would just want the general public to know if they were to reach out to you looking at going into either buying or selling a home? Best piece of advice.
Give me a call. The conversation as we've kind of beat it over the last 30 minutes that we've been talking about the same thing. It's just the conversation. Yeah. Because probably as many people as we show them the promised land, we also have that conversation that you may be better in your situation. One of our mutual friends, and I won't necessarily say the name, but I told her when we met in January, because she wanted to get the price or her monthly mortgage down. She wanted to be in a better location so it'd be a little bit more logistically possible for her clients that she has in Summerlin and she also has in Henderson. And I told her, I don't know if it's going to be a great situation for you. So you just need the truth from who you're talking to. Because yes, I'll do whatever you want. If you want me to get you into a house, I can make that happen. But we also need to be realistic with what your expectations are. And is there something better for you on the horizon? Or does it make sense to just stay where you're at for the time being, continue to pay your mortgage down? Maybe instead of doing this, maybe you create another little slush fund and it will allow us to do more in the future. So it's really just about having that conversation, being honest with each other. I don't have to worry about the financial stuff. That's for Jason to have to deal with. And that was even when I told my client today. I was like, anything that you discuss with Jason, that stays between you and Jason. As long as Jason tells me the amount of money that we can spend on a home, that's what I need to know.
Yep.
And again, I'm not going to shoot for the fences. I'm not going to try and make you spend more than you need to. I'm going to get you in a position that you feel comfortable and you are excited about what's happening. You're not dreading the next step. So give me a call. Let's talk. Let's meet at Starbucks. Let's meet at Coffee Bean. It doesn't have to be in my office. If that takes your guards down to just meet for a cup of coffee or tea and just have a discussion about what the next step could look like, great. I'll drive to Aliante. I've driven all over. We know everywhere to go.
Yes.
So just enjoy the process. It's not as daunting as people think it is. Our goal is to make it as smooth and painless and seamless as possible. Even when there's arrows coming at us in the background, we want to make it smooth and enjoyable for you, because that's the excitement that we see when they look back and they're like, actually, it wasn't that bad.
Yeah.
So
I do remember thinking that when I bought my first house. I remember thinking, oh my gosh, if I would have known it was this easy of a process, I would have done this 10 years ago. But I think a lot of people wait because it seems daunting. But again, if you have that person who's helping you through it, and to your point, meeting at a Coffee Bean and Tea Leaf or at the office or whatever, extending that web, those 3 degrees of separation from Alex. So what about you, Jason? Best advice?
Best advice is much like what he was just saying, is like, just take that first step, make that phone call. And then, the phone calls typically last 30 to 45 minutes, because once you get going, people have questions and you kind of get into a groove. But like literally for me to figure it out, it's like 12 minutes, 15 minutes at the most. If you really just wanted to like cut through all the BS and like get to the point. And just starting the process is the number one thing. Most people think about it for months. I hear from someone, I have a friend, they're going to call you. And I'm like,
when?
Do you know when? Like, when, I'm excited to help them and like kind of get the ball rolling. Yeah. And like in some cases that could be like 45, 60, 90 days. I've had people where it's like, oh, I was supposed to call you last year and just didn't want to get around to it. And then the worst thing is then figuring out you're like 6 or 8 months out because you have some things that you need to work on, where if we would have just got it started sooner, you'd have been further along. So taking that first step, making the phone call, don't turn yourself down. I talk to a lot of people that feel like there's no hope for them. And there is, there's a lot of options out there that can help them get into a home. So it's not your job to turn yourself down, it's mine.
I love it. I love that.
Again, we always will figure out how to give you a roadmap of getting you where, you want to be.
Yep.
And then as motivated as you are is as motivated as we're going to be.
That's awesome. So totally separate question for you guys. Will there be an SAE reunion from the 90s group?
There always is. We're always hanging out. Like, we have a group chat of probably 16 people or so that are like frequently talking.
I love that.
It's super cool. Like, we're really lucky to have the like group of friends that we have. We don't get together as much as we would like to because of family and all the different things that kind of pull you in different directions with life. But I do feel like we do an amazing job of at least communicating, and we all know what's going on in each other's lives. And it's good for men to have like a solid support group.
100%.
We need that as well. And it's, again, we're super lucky. We have a reunion basically every day.
I love that.
It's been a challenge. Just over the last few weeks, we've lost some friends that are in our age bracket, which is really weird when you're losing close friends and fraternity brothers. And again, as Jason just mentioned, I mean, we kind of console in each other and reminisce about all the amazing memories and the great things that we've been able to be a part of. I've got a 4-year-old now, and Jay's got 2 beautiful daughters. And it's such a difference between the men that we were, maybe boys that we were back in college, to the men that we've turned into today. We have some brothers of ours that are running casinos across the country, in California, here in Vegas, outside of town. So it's amazing to see the support system that we provide for each other. And it's very important. And we try and get together with our alumni happy hours we have every month and some of the different events that we do, because it is so important. So I appreciate you bringing that up, because we have some amazing people in our lives.
And another thing that's super cool is like being a part of that fraternity. Like, a lot of people are like, oh, you're paying for your friends, and there's like kind of a negative connotation. But the majority of my like close friends are fraternity brothers, because we do have that like common bond, and we have just a lot in common. And what's been cool is seeing the younger guys come through, the guys that are just like recently graduating, getting into the professional field. You have like a constantly growing network of people. and you have that like common bond. You kind of know what you're made of based on the experiences that we probably share. And it's super cool to meet guys that have come along after the fact that you get to make a bond with, and in some cases build friendships and business relationships with. So if your kids are out there and they want to go Greek, don't prevent them. You know, there's definitely some trouble that you can get into, as you know, in those age groups with like the first amount of freedom that you're getting and things of that nature. But I feel like in a lot of cases there's a lot more good that comes from it than bad.
Absolutely. I completely agree. And speaking of Greek, we can't have two Greeks sitting at this table and not mention the festival.
Oh, yeah.
Do you want to give a shout out to the festival?
26th, 27th, and 28th. It's going to be amazing. We're really trying to get back into the community. We've been doing this since 73, so our 52nd year of having our festival. It's out at the Greek church over off of Hacienda and Jones. We're going to have something that we really want to get back into the communities and do. All of our first responders are going to be invited to come in for free. Our police, our firefighters, our nurses, and so we're working on some really cool objectives to get them in. We'll have the VIP tent that we're doing some really cool things with that, some VIP dinners, that we have some dinners for 15 people. We have a full lamb on the spit, the domades, pastizo. It's just going to be the music. The whole weekend is just phenomenal. So you'll be hearing a lot. You'll be seeing a lot of that, hopefully on billboards and signs and Facebook and a lot of sponsored ads and a lot of. We're going to do our best to get into the communities, because we know that we're no longer the only event in town between everything that we discussed before. So we're doing our best to get back into the grooves and get back into the families, the communities that have supported us for all these years, and get them to the festival to have an amazing event this year.
I just have to smile because you say the lamb on the spit. And for us, this is a normal thing, but we both married non-Greeks. And so there's a little explanation that goes through when you marry somebody who's not Greek about, hey, there's a couple cultural differences you might just want to be aware of before you show up to some of these events.
Yeah.
But
you guys don't really put Windex on everything, right?
no, the Windex was the one thing in the movie where I was like, I don't know about the Windex, but everything
they took it
else.
too far.
But it's a metaphor for all of the superstitions that we do have. There's
so many.
Too many to have on a 30-minute podcast.
Oh, we could do an entire podcast just about the superstitions, including the necklace that I'm wearing underneath this dress that I haven't taken off for probably 20 years.
Yeah.
No exaggeration. But anyway, I can't thank you guys enough for coming on and for being such great partners for us. We appreciate it. And if people want to find you, how can they find you guys? We'll start with you, Jason.
Best way is always cell phone. You can look me up. I'm all over the internet as well. It's like everybody's a Google search away at this point. Jason Hill, Modern Lending, and look forward to helping you when the opportunity arises.
Absolutely. And Alex?
Easiest is my cell phone. Sometimes my wife doesn't like that I have it on as much as I do. I think the only time I really turn it off is when I'm putting my daughter to bed, although she then grabs it and wants to take pictures and do this, all of a sudden it's on. But that's about the only time I ever turn it off. So give me a call, 702-592-9835, or my website is 702property.com. But again, that's the biggest thing that we pride on ourselves, is being open to that, having that conversation, the communication, answering our phone. Again, I can't say that either one of us are always going to be able to answer our phone. That would mean that we're probably not doing any business if that were the case. But if you call, we'll respond as quickly as possible. We'll text you back, we'll email you back, we'll call you back as soon as possible. But know that you will hear back immediately, because we want to be able to help in any way that we can.
And you'll be welcomed with a warm hug.
Absolutely.
Every single time. Awesome. Well, thank you guys. Thanks for watching. We appreciate it, and we'll see you guys next time.